So in today's episode, Nancy and I talk about manifestation, multi-dimensions. We talk about her new blown out haircut. We talk about my humongous Dunkin' Donut coffee. And
Candy corn.
candy corn. Stay tuned for more. I think that was awesome, and having you chime in is hilarious. We just have to keep doing that.
Welcome to Expansive Minds Podcast, Gateway to Freedom, a podcast where two friends, Aileen and Nancy, explore and expand beyond what they think they know in order to live a life of freedom. Thank you for joining us, and away we go.
Hello.
Hello.
All is well. We're a little flustered getting here and getting it together, but here we are. Here we are.
And we actually both had new adventures.
We did. So let's set the intention, because
Yeah.
we're like, do you have anything to talk about? I don't know. Do you? Not really. And then we're like, you know what? Let's talk about our adventure in getting here, because as always, things are always working out for us.
That's right. That's right.
The universe has our back. All right, intention. We are channels of love and light and trust and knowing that the universe does have our back. And during our discussion, we intend to hold that space to not only remind us, but put it out in the universe that all is well. And so it is.
Great. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. So do you want to talk about your
Let's
newness
start.
coming here?
Okay, so, well, yeah,
We'll do yours and we'll do mine, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, because we see what's wrong with this picture.
So wrong with this.
What is wrong with this picture?
So wrong and yet so
This
right.
vegetarian, vegan, sugar-free gal will explain. It will all become clear in a moment. So, first off, this morning, Aileen said, oh, I'm still on the island, running late. She had a letter, all kinds of mishaps, and said, I'm going to be running late. I said, okay, well, I'm going to get my hair done, so I'll just come right from there. I'll food shop, whatever. I'll time it. So then Aileen's texting. She's trying like heck to get there. I think driving too fast, probably. In any case, long story short, I said to my gal, my gal said, can I blow dry your hair? You never let me. And I'm like, you know what? I think you can today, because I had a little window. My friend's going to be late. So that's what this is, with the hair.
Looks
So
great.
different, trying to make things different. Just looking for a change. So if you can't change the external circumstances, change what you can change. So anyway, it's fun. I don't normally straighten just because it's so curly, and I have a very small window where I can straighten it, and it's not going to.
Because of the weather?
Yeah, because of the humidity. So I let her do it. So anyway, Aileen ended up
great.
getting here early, and then I got here late because this. But then Aileen walks up and she's like, hey, and I'm like, what is that in your hand?
It was.
What is
I
that?
laughed the entire time. So yes, I was leaving Nantucket a little later than I had planned, and did the drive out, and I sort of gently, cryptically was like, oh, GPS says I'll be there in 2 hours, but I usually get there in an hour and a half, but I didn't really want to risk it. So we changed the meeting time a half hour later than we were going to meet. So then, as it would be, gentle lead foot.
You think you had a race? You were a race driver? In a
Totally had to have been a race driver in a past life.
Okay. I don't.
I'm one of those people that on the highway, it's part of my competitive thing. Who knows, right? We're made up of all these like really magical, crazy, wild aspects. So, I'm one of those people on the highway. Then I'm driving, but I feel like I have to pass everybody because I got to win. Like, where am I winning?
God.
Where am I going to win? I'm just going
So
somewhere.
it's
They're
just
not going to the same place I'm going
Yeah.
to. But I'm one of those people that's like,
Okay, yeah.
But not the super, super fast ones where you go, oh my God, they're racing with their friend and that's dangerous.
yeah.
Because no friend is out there racing with me, but thank God.
So you made it
So
here
I made
early.
it here early, and I was like kind of doing, voice to text with you guys. Okay, I'm getting through the Braintree split. Okay, now I got this. So I got here on time, but was early for the second time we sat. So I thought I'll just go get a mocha. So I'm not a big coffee drinker, and I don't like straight coffee. I like it with chocolate. I like a mocha. Kind of got in the habit a couple years ago when I was going up to Maine a lot. And so I don't know a lot about coffee. My kids they've been drinking coffee since high school.
Gabby,
whatever. I don't even know.
It's an art to watch Gabby order her Dunkins with 1 squirt of this and unsweetened that and almond milk. Yeah.
No clue.
I make my own, and it's black, and it's awesome. It's Hawaiian, black, dark.
Yeah, you're like, this is my thing. And so I make it, at home. And then there's 1 or 2 places that I go to on Nantucket that I order. And also there's one in Vermont too that I order, specialty coffee places, and it's awesome. It's great. So my daughter loves Dunkin' Donuts. So I'm walking by, I'll just walk around. It's beautiful out here. I'm walking. And the first cafe is closed, not staffed. Then the other place, I had mocha there before, not so great. So I see Dunkin' Donuts. I'm going to do something new, right? Now, I grew up with my mom going to Dunkin' Donuts, and we had to go in and get her coffee for her all the time. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go into Dunkin' Donuts. And my daughter Megan's always saying it's less expensive and the coffee's good. I'm like, okay. So I'm texting my daughter. I'm like, hey, I'm going into Dunkin' Donuts. First time I'm going to do an order, And so I go up, and I wanted to just say, as I was telling, I just wanted to say, mocha, Aileen, order this. Keep it easy for me, but it doesn't say that. So then I'm looking, I'm like, well, how do I know what? Like, it doesn't say clearly what I think I want. So then I see this frozen chocolate, and then on top of this, on the board, it's like, oh, add-ins, and I see espresso. And so I remember that my daughters have said to me, if you go to a regular coffee place, you have to ask for this, but if you go to this place, then they usually put in 2 shots of espresso. Like, okay, I don't.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'll get the frozen chocolate drink with 2 shots of espresso. And I'm always thinking that's like a large one. So I order the frozen chocolate, and I say, and I'm so proud, and 2 shots of espresso. Mm-hmm. And then he says, well, what size? And I'm like, oh. Like, I don't think I want it like this. I mean, I said I get large, I guess. I'm thinking, because I have like a caffeine thing a little bit. So then everything's good. Then they tell me it's like $8, and they feel really bad. They're like, wow, that's really expensive. And, I think it's because the espresso, like shots of espresso. And I'm like, it's cool. It's cool. So then the young man who's making it, I hear him, he's kind of panicking behind. He's like, we have no chocolate. We have no chocolate. And I'm thinking, is he talking about, he's got to be talking about my drink because I'm the only one in here. But who's he talking, what's happening? But I'm going to act like.
Code red.
Right, totally, it's Dunkin' Donuts. But I'm going to be like, you know what? He's working it out. I don't want to interfere. He's like trying to figure it out with his buddy. What are they going to do? They both feel bad that I've spent $8 at a Dunkin' Donuts for something. So then he comes out through those doors, and he just says, we don't have any chocolate. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, well, what else can I make? I'm like, well, honestly, all I can tell you is I don't straight coffee. It has to have chocolate in it. That's all I know. That's all I can tell you. So then he gets, this is like, for me, this is insane. So this is like, look, I've never had anything this big, unless it was like a kale smoothie that I made that makes me go like this the whole time I drink it, but I drink it anyway. So he's got, and I see him, and he's pushing a pump, and I'm like, oh, what is he putting in there? And it's some chocolate sauce, and he's going, I'm going to put some extra chocolate in there. I'm like, okay, man, whatever, right? And so then he's like, well, do you like this? And I could do a macchiato, and I could do this. I'm like, okay, all I want to say is if it's chocolate and coffee, that's all I'm looking for. So then he says, have you ever had this vanilla bean latte? Or I don't know what it's really called. I was like, no. He goes, I could make that and add in chocolate. I go, that seems like that would match the criteria. So then, and he was so cute and so sweet and so earnest. And I said, man, you just do it. I trust you. Just go crazy. Just throw in it there. Just do what you want. Use your creativity. And so I could see his energy,
And you're doing energy work on the dude. Now here's a little, you go in for a cup of coffee. He's not on your table, but you're basically doing energy work by directing your attention to him and encouraging his creativity. So
yeah, I was really excited for him because I was like, this could be this kid's moment, this young man's moment to just like, you're right, Nancy. I was just like, do it. Like, be an artist. You know, just get out your paintbrush, get out your pumps and your coffees and whatever you're doing back there.
Awesome.
So then he's saying, well, I don't know how it'll be. If it doesn't taste good, I'll make something else for you. Like, okay. And then I hear, and he's putting on the whipped cream. I'm going,
Cream. Oh, the non-dairy girl.
right. I'm like, in all of this, I forgot to like there was so much happening.
Yeah.
So I'm like, just, it doesn't matter. Like, again, do the least amount of harm. You know, like, that's sort of the motto.
Yeah.
So he comes out and he's so happy. I imagine this is like up to here with the cream coming out. And he's like, this is his heart. This is this young man. And he puts it on the counter and he kind of like does this. I go, that looks amazing. Meanwhile, I'm like, that thing is, what is happening? And then some other people came in, so we had to wait on them. And I took a sip, you know, I'm like, I'm holding this huge, to me it feels like it's this big, like one of those fake, you know, big bottles of something. I'm like, that's really sweet. And I was like, well, I taste the chocolate, I taste all this stuff, and I just knew, I could just feel it. He was just kind of waiting, you know, was he gonna have to come help me again? Was I gonna be mad? Like, what was gonna happen? And then I just said, hey man, I just wanna tell you. I go, that is amazing. It was so good. I go, really hit my sweet tooth. And then I could see him look over and he's like smiling and he's starting to like kind of blush a little bit because there's other people that are ordering. And I said, I don't think I'm gonna like have any Halloween candy this year because you just nailed it for me, you know. And he laughed, and I walked out of there, and then I was laughing because I'm like, when have I? Never in my entire life would I ever be holding something like this. Not offensive to anyone else. It's just like not my bag. But it was such a great experience. So this whole thing about you, like the timing where we're like, we planned for 12:30, then I was like, oh no, you know, by the time I get off the boat and get on the road and get my, one might be safer. And you're like, okay, then I'll do this. So you're having this moment where she's like, do you have time for me to blow your hair out? I really want to blow your hair out. And it did. Yeah. And then I got here early and then I had time to have this amazing experience with this young man.
Which is perfect. Just again, timing as always with us.
Right.
Was listening to Cry On as I was puttering around this morning. And he talks about this character. He uses parables because stories are a great way to explain things. And he was talking about this character that he calls Wu. And the gist of the parable was Wu wanted to get away from his boss. So he wanted to be promoted to the second floor. And so he's talking to his guides in his sleep saying, promote me, I want to go to the second floor, I want to go to the second floor. And the guys, I just want to get away from my boss, I want to be at the second floor. And so he goes to sleep, he's talking to his guides in his sleep, and the guys are like, well, you just have to say so. So get in the elevator and, you know, push the button. When he gets in the elevator, pushes the button, and it won't go to the second floor in this parable. Yeah. So then he goes to sleep, and he goes, you guys told me, and I really want to go to the second floor. And they go, no, tell us what you really want. And he's like, I really want to be away from my boss. So next day, go in the elevator, pushes the button. It doesn't go to the second floor, but the door opens and there's something going on in his office, and it's a celebration. His boss got promoted and is going to the second floor, and Wu is taking the boss's position.
Oh, cool.
On the first. And I screwed up the story. I'm sure I didn't get accurate, but the gist is...
Yes, right, I get it.
Don't be so specific or so sold on the outcome. Trust that your team knows what's best for you. Mm-hmm. And I think I might have even said this last week or the week before when one of my kids were like, well, I want this. And I had said to them, what you want and what you need may not always be the same thing. So if you have to have some trust that the universe knows what it is you really need. And it will usually be what you want. Mm-hmm. But letting go of the specific outcome. So that was the gist of it, letting go of the outcome.
That makes me think too, I love that story. It brought up for me a story that happened to this young man once where it's about intention and knowing what our intention is, because sometimes we have intentions, and that was to me what came from the story. We have an intention that we don't cognitively realize is really the intention. So we think it's supposed to be a certain way. So this young man who was really upset, it's a true story, he was really upset because he didn't get into Harvard. And all of his friends were going to like Harvard and Princeton, and he was like, why? And he was really angry. So I said, well, I knew enough and he got into this great school. And so anyway, I said, well, was your intention when you were applying for schools, to go to an Ivy League school? He said, no. I said, was your intention to be with your friends? He said, no. I said, well, what was your intention? He said, well, my intention was I wanted to go to a school where I could create some technology that could help people's lives get better. And I looked at him and I said, you know, that's the school you got accepted to, right? And then he looked at me and he was like, oh, you know, because he had gotten distracted because people had said to him, because he applied to Harvard and they were like, you'll definitely get into Harvard. So he got so distracted because his other friends were like, we got into Harvard and, oh, you didn't get in, that's weird. And like the whole intention got lost in this ego dance. And then of course he ended up going, loved it, got to do so much, and started doing what he really wanted to do.
Yeah.
So we forget what our intention is when we get distracted by stuff.
When society not inflicts it, but you observe and then you become caught up in the observation. Yeah. I totally see that. So who knew that while our intention was to get here at 12:30 today, it actually was for me to get my hair blown out and you to boost the coffee barista boys.
Yes.
Do some energy work on the coffee dude.
And the other thing I like to say about things like that too is because there are multiple dimensions and past lives and parallel lives and karmic balancing, which I don't see karmic balancing as punishment at all. I just want to clarify. To me, karmic balancing is when you have two people or more, but let's say two people, and the energy between them is nice and smooth, but then one person does something and then it gets all like weird, then you just want to bring it back to smooth, right? And so there's a sense that we can do that over lifetimes. So sometimes when something seems weird or wonky, I think, you know what, this could be, I'm just going to let this go, that this is a past life thing that I'm supposed to deal with. So yeah, it could be in this moment with this young man, the whole experience, or you know what, who knows, maybe in a past life or a parallel life, I super complained to him and I was out of control at a restaurant when he brought me something, and now I get to like balance it. Yeah. You know? It's sort of like, it's like there's so many
don't read
options.
Into it, but being present in the moment and enjoying the moment. You were talking about dimensionality. This week also another interesting lecture I was listening to is Unseen Seraph, and she was talking about how to jump dimensions. And so basically you're jumping dimensions all the time, all day, almost at every moment. Her thought was every time there's a decision point, then you're splitting off into a dimension. And you said Dolores Cannon would say one of you goes here, one goes here. It's this concept of dimensionality is very difficult for linear people to grasp. But in any case, this gal was trying to talk about how to jump dimension. This concept is to look at previous things. It's not revisioning, which is another technique, which is say there's a circumstance that happened, you don't like it. You write it down and then you write it down the way you want. That's revisioning. What this gal was proposing is you write down the circumstance. Instead, you change your perspective. And so instead, you're not doing revisioning, but you are changing your perspective of what might have historically happened. And as such, now you're on a new path now.
Exactly. And it just it raises the vibration, which is sort of what we talk about. Now, in dimensions, the interesting thing, and I think people don't think about the fact that physicists can almost come to fisticuffs over stuff. I mean, physicists can be really intense. So it's pretty amazing that the majority are in a level of agreement that there is between 11 and 13 dimensions.
Cryon says even more, but if you can even get them to agree on that.
That's right.
So when you were talking about physicists fighting, in my mind, I'm looking at them like having slide rule duels.
It gets brutal, man. It is brutal.
Those guys can be tough, right?
They're tough, man. And so that's a pretty cool thing about dimensions. And the way I like to think about dimensions, especially for like linear, how do you do it?
It's a difficult concept to grasp.
If you go into, usually it's like a dressing room, right? In a, and they have like that three-way mirror, you know, it's like the mirror's here and then there's the suns. But if you look, you can see a bunch of you.
Yes.
That's how you can just think of dimensions.
Okay.
So there's a bunch of you.
Okay.
And so that's why, you know, the whole past life thing, like I used to sort of clearly be like, oh, this is a past life. But then it's like, well, parallel life, past life, then you have to think, well, what is time?
Well, then, oh God, there's another.
Then you can't even say, well, is it past life? So So what I say when I'm working on somebody, if I see something that I will say is a past life because it has a different kind of nuanced energy to it, and the clothing, the scenes are what we perceive as a past life that we may have read in history books or seen in movies, you know, I will say this is a past life memory or past life that you had that I can see. And over the years, having been a skeptic myself, and you and I have talked about the importance of being skeptics, if I didn't have this happen consistently for 27 years, I probably wouldn't believe it. I wouldn't be able to grasp it. But it's pretty amazing to consistently see or perceive people in these experiences that, again, I might say is a past life. And then to have them say, oh my gosh, I am, you know, I've been obsessed with going to that place for years, or that explains that relationship with that person, or, you know, it's incredible.
It is incredible, and it's incredible too if you use it in that circumstance as, oh, what an interesting observation. It doesn't have to define me. Like Cryon says, you may have an aversion to water. You have no reason to have an aversion to water. And he said, most likely then you might have drowned in multiple past lives. But that doesn't mean then you still have to carry that aversion.
Yes.
It doesn't define you. It can't explain why you have some tendencies toward or aversions away from things, but it doesn't need to define you.
Totally. And I say this to people too. I'll say, that was then, this is now. So we'll honor then, and you can do this healing, and you can let it go, and this is now. Yes. And I also say to the flip side, the other side of that, not the flip side, but oftentimes people will meet people, and it can get tricky if you're in a committed relationship and you meet someone else who's in a committed relationship or not or whatever, and it looks like, so I always say to people, don't blow your family up yet. Don't blow your life up yet, because there could be a karmic balancing. There could be a reason that you've come back together, and maybe just to check to make sure you're okay, or you owed that person something, or they were the love of your life in Italy in 27. But don't blow up your life, because it's the other thing. It's like, I try to say, just know that that person is a kindred spirit, is what I call it, because I feel like we need to have some way to say this is really significant, because it is significant, and I want to support and honor that this is significant, and I understand the depth that it feels real, but in that dimension, in that story, we're focused on this timeline, and you're married to this person with this family, so maybe don't blow it up yet, because this might only be for a little period to do this.
And Cryon says now more than ever, with the energy being where it is in the space that it is, that karma and the Akash. So there used to be, when I was first learning this stuff 15 years ago, you kind of had your roadmap with the Akash, and the karma police were there. So if you did something, it's coming back. But it's not. He said now the Akash and karma are no longer. You're not beholden to them. It's, you are now, and there's so much power in this now. There's so much power in this now, more than there has ever been in a now on any planet at any given time, that it's make your choice, set your intention, and then trust and surrender. That's the scary part. That's the scary part. Like, okay, gonna trust that they're gonna hook me up.
Because it's just a void. Because you're like, I'm trusting in a void.
And then there's your human survival instincts that I need to take care of myself, and so to let go. It's a bit scary.
Yeah.
It can be scary. But those who have mastered it, that's how they do it.
So the best book on energy work, and I'm sure I've said this before, is Harold and the Purple Crayon.
That is so funny.
Harold and the Purple Crayon, if you want to invest in anything, it's probably like $5.
We always had that. Oh my God, we loved it. The kids, we always had. And then my pediatrician was friends with the artist. It was like so cool.
Isn't it great? Yeah. So Harold and the Purple Crayon, the whole premise in the first book, he has his purple crayon. And by the way, purple is spirit chakra. And mystic and the power, and the crystals and all that. So what he does, and the book is about him drawing everything. He draws the path. He draws it. Then he's hungry, so he draws the pies. Then he draws the company, and he draws the scary monsters. And the part I love the most there's two parts where he draws himself into a dangerous situation. So he's drawing and he falls off the cliff, but then he quickly, draws a hot air balloon around himself so he can float. Another one, he falls into the water. He's scared of these things and he goes into the water, and then he draws himself a boat.
Love it.
And that's
I like
why
it when he draws himself into bed with the blanket at the end of the book.
Right?
Yeah.
That is the best and really only energy book you ever need is Harold and the Purple
When you
Crayon.
started, the best energy book in Harry, I'm going, who's she going to quote? What master? What quantum master is she going to quote?
Harold and the Purple Crayon.
Didn't see that one coming.
I know.
Didn't see it coming.
It's just keeping it simple.
That's true. It's all in the imagination.
Yeah.
Gabriella Bella, where are we at, sunshine?
You guys are about 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
You
We're
usually
doing
do
good.
25, usually close to 25.
I know, but you know what? I'm editing the past two, and we're way out. We're like at 40, 45.
We just love to get. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
The last one, the one I'm working on now, I'm like, do I cut out this juicy stuff, or do I just let go over
Nancy,
the time on it?
Nancy puts all the time, and she does all the editing. We've
I like
mentioned
to
that
play
before.
with the technology.
And
I'm
I really
learning.
appreciate that.
You'll see the little blips in it. I'm learning it, but it's fun. I like the technology.
I do appreciate that.
So, all right. Well, so let's think about then. Do we have any lessons that we want to encapsulate for today?
Yeah, I think that if we open up and consider and choose to believe that everything is way bigger than we can know, right? And then we match our language to that. So to the piece about talking about.
Yeah, what do you mean language? Match the language to
So oftentimes I will say when someone says, oh, I haven't done that, or I can't do that, or that hasn't happened. And I'll always say, yet. It happened, because when we, end it like that, we're limiting ourselves.
Yes.
And we don't know,
Yes.
right? It hasn't happened yet. Like when I was, so for example, at Dunkin' Donuts today, right? I could have been really invested and attached to, this has to be just a mocha, and then I could have left. Or then I could have been like, this has to only be this frozen chocolate and espresso. And I would have left. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, yet, the kind of yet, the like allowing it to continue on. Allowing it to continue on. Movement is so important. I mean, movement is all the time, but we're the ones that stop the movement, or we stop the narrative, or we stop the story.
Or we limit the story.
Yes.
Right? Because you might want to be at this particular university, but you're at this other university that gave you a fellowship, and that you've now joined these clubs, which you wouldn't have. So we limit ourselves. The universe might have something more grand in mind.
Yes.
But with our very specific outcome, we limit it.
Because I think our ego can come in and chomp down on it, as opposed to the alchemist, the great line in there, which is, when you know your heart's desire, when you know your treasure, when you know it, the entire universe will conspire to make it so.
Love it. And that also a good exercise that might be worthwhile. So love that. So first tip is, if you're not getting what you want and you're working really hard, and you add yet to it, but it might be worth revisiting that thing that you think you want, because maybe it is not what you want. It might be something akin to it, but more general. So as you sit down and you do kind of write your intentions, and instead of being specific with it, really give it some thought and really think on, because what you want might not actually be what it is you think you want.
Yeah, and I
Some
love that you
introspection
said
on that.
think, because we have this ego thinking brain, and it can be and often is in complete contrast to our soul heart intention. So the universe, sometimes it doesn't come to, because the universe is like, well, wait,
Yeah,
we're
you
going to start.
split
Oh, no, but
energy.
we're not. But then
Split
we're going to.
energy.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I posted this thing the other day. It was funny, where my sister and I have this funny thing with candy corn.
Okay.
And at
I
this
saw
time of
this
the year,
post.
this time of the year, we're always like, I get the candy corn first, and it happens to each one of us where we take that first, 5 pieces all at once, and then it's like, like the sugar makes us cough.
Yeah.
But then we're like, oh, okay, that's over now. We can eat more candy corn. And then now my Aunt Rose has jumped in on it, because she loves candy corn too. So this year, my sister sent me a thing that was like, what? It was an article about candy corn recall. And I was like, oh, what? Are we not doing candy corn this year? Like, what's up with the candy corn? So then I was in Stop and Shop on Nantucket, and I thought, oh, if they have candy corn, I'm getting it. I'm going to eat it. I'm going to take a picture. I won the race. I ate the candy corn first. So I go into the aisle. I'm staring at the candy corn, but I had started this digestive cleanse, and I was like, ugh, like I don't want to put that sugar in, and I just did this cleanse. But it's only been 3 days, so it's okay. Like I sat with it for a while, and then I went, nope, I'm going to let go of the candy corn. And then as I showed you, I've been looking for like stevia leaves in the baking section, and there's this huge gap of nothing on the shelf but one bag of candy corn. And then I was like, no, universe, time out. No, I don't want the candy corn anymore. And then I get through the store and I'm checking out, and as I'm leaving the checkout, self-checkout, the person that's at the counter there, that has their own little section, I look, I'm like, oh, there was another bag of candy corn, like, take us with you.
You don't know your own strength, girl.
And I was
you
like,
don't know how to turn it off.
That's the thing too, like in the moment, and that happens sometimes too. It's okay if we manifest something and then we change our mind. We're like, no, you know what? Thank you. But thank you for trying 2 times to jump in my cart and candy corn. That was the only thing that didn't happen. One didn't just like come flying out of nowhere and land in my cart.
Be careful now. Next time.
I know. I'll
we'll
send you a
see how
picture.
that one rolls out. Yeah, flying candy corns in the air. All good. All right, so I think we're good. Wrap it up. Adding the word yet. If your manifestations haven't come, you can add the word yet. And then another thing, you can revisit those manifestations because they might not be what you want. Right. And then when you get the manifestation, you can change your mind.
Exactly. Yes, you can.
Doesn't get better than that. Awesome. And as always,
more to be revealed.
Thank you for joining us on Expansive Minds podcast, Gateway to Freedom. Until next time, more to be revealed.